Hello, my name is Carly Hamilton, and I'm one of the co-leaders of our tour guide program here at Brimmer. I'm currently a senior, and I've been in Brimmer since fourth grade, so I've had lots of wonderful experiences over the years that have made me so excited to continue my education here. In high school, I'm involved in our journalism program. I'm part of our STEAM diploma program, and I'm part of Model United Nations as well. But today I'll be talking about middle school and taking you on a tour of our campus from a middle school perspective. So with that, I will share my screen with you. We have a wonderful setup so that I can take you through as close to the real tour as possible. So as you can see here, the Hastings Center is our main academic hub for students on campus. Most of the classes for middle school students do take place in this space. The main exception that I can think of is art classes, which I will talk about in a bit. So let's get started. So we did renovations a couple of years ago, and this space is actually very new. I'll talk a lot about the technology when we go upstairs. But first and foremost, we have this wonderful lobby and the dining commons. So the dining commons is where, in a COVID-free world, all of our middle school students have lunch together. One of my favorite things about lunch in middle school was always being able to have those meals with people who might have been in the play with me or on a sports team or club. That might not be in my normal classes. So that's a really great way to make new friends, spend time with a different group of people, or the people you're in class with, whatever works for you. Our food is delicious. We always have a hot lunch option, as well as a salad bar and a sandwich bar. And our kitchen is really great about being aware of food allergies. So we don't have nuts in our food. We're free of shellfish, and our students who are gluten-free, vegan, vegetarian, there's always those options as well. So the food is really delicious. One of my favorite things is once a month we have different cultural days. So there will be foods from different parts of the world, which of course there always are, but those days are particularly focused on a different culture. So we've had some delicious food from all different parts of the world. And it's always really cool when we have international students from some of those countries talking about the food that they're used to eating in their home. So that's really neat. This space is also used for after school if students are waiting to be picked up during AP. So again, this is a place to be. And one of my favorite parts of the dining commons is actually a bit of an extension of the space. So you can see back here, we have these different chairs. So this is what we call the upper commons. And it's really cool because there's actually doors that close off the space. So this is used a lot for Senate meetings. We have middle school Senate. They plan different Halloween events. We've had dances that they've planned, different fundraisers, dress down days, spirit weeks. And those are always really fun. Senate is a great way to be involved in the community. But I think that's a really great space to have those lunch meetings, which occur once a week for Senate. But we also have different affinity group lunches. Students can try and start their own clubs if they are interested. And that's also another place where they can just eat. So that is the upper commons. And with that, we will make our way upstairs. So this here is the media lab. It's really cool. I love this wall. It's actually a green screen, but I will talk more about that when we enter the room. So this is the innovation space. This is one of my favorite spots on campus. I like to spend, if I have a study hall, sometimes I'll come up here, but there's really a lot of different classes that spend time up here. So you'll see projects all over the room. We have a hanging mobile. We have a disco ball made of CDs. We have some different tape art. We have a piece of bubble wrap that we were actually injecting with paint, which was so cool. So Ms. Lee is our Director of Innovation and Design, and she organizes all of these community projects that students in all different parts of the school, faculty members, even visitors can take part in. And so I think it's really cool. It shows how collaborative our community is. And it's really cool to have those pieces of art that we contributed to on display around the school. So I'll move to the back of the space. One thing I want to point out is these study rooms, which are equipped with TVs and AirPlay displays. So if students are practicing for a class presentation, this is a great way to practice that group work in advance. We also have some cool podcasting equipment that sometimes students will use, and these places are a great way to record because it's so quiet in there. Over here, we have a bunch of different types of technology. We have different photography setups. We have, of course, a printer, lots of different blocks and activities. And these are stream tables. So there are 4 of them. And Dr. Gallen, who teaches middle school science, he is such a wonderful teacher. He's actually an archaeologist. And one of the ways that students look at erosion is by using these stream tables. And so they're full of sand, and they use the little Monopoly houses to represent homes, and then they examine how erosion affects those areas. So water goes into the stream tables, and I'm a little sad those weren't around when I took science. So those are always fun for me to see. It's such a fun class, and a lot of our learning is very hands-on, as you will hear more about as I take you throughout the school. So again, this is our innovation space. Some classes are held up here. If we have indoor recess one day, students do have recess once a week. That can be held up here as well. Again, it's a great place to be creative, collaborative, and things like that for our middle school students. Something else I'd like to mention before we head to the maker space is Make Me a Maker project. So as I mentioned, Ms. Lee is our Director of Innovation and Design. And one of my favorite things that she's done is this project. So you can see there's 3 different levels, and using the equipment in the maker space, which I will show you in a second, she creates different projects that students can do. And so those have been everything from, we've done ID holders for our student key cards. We've done different earrings, so cool, wonderful for yourself, for gifts. And I like that there's different levels so you can choose the complexity for the project that you think suits you best. So again, there's really so much to do. We really do take full advantage of all of the space we have. And so now we will head toward the maker space, the STEAM lab. As I mentioned, I am in the STEAM diploma program in upper school, so I spend a lot of time in here. But the middle school students use this space as well. They have something called Innovation Hour each week where they utilize all of the equipment in this room. We have everything from laser cutters to 3D printers to vinyl cutters to, we have a CNC router over here. There's so much to do, and there is endless possibilities in this space. So we use Onshape, which is a computer-aided design program. And the wonderful thing about this space is sometimes classes will involve the technology as well. And so there's tons of different projects happening in all sorts of different classes, all different times of the year. But it's a really great way for students to kind of explore all the possibilities out there and do a lot of designing of their own creation. So this is definitely a fun space. We have a robotics equipment as well. Like, there really are endless options. Sometimes, so we offer clubs after school on Mondays, and there are often clubs that use this equipment as well. So that's another great way to be involved. Across the hall here, as I mentioned, so this is the media lab. So one of the main perks of this space is this green wall, which actually acts as a green screen. So we've used this in a variety of different classes, and it's great for filming. So Mr. Kiley teaches digital cinema in the upper school, and he also offers a club for the middle school students, which I think is so cool because there's so many different resources we have on campus, and I love that those options are available to all of our students. So again, after school on Mondays, the students can choose to participate in a club or activity, and some of those examples could be if they want to be utilizing this space. Sometimes clubs are offered involving filming. So I think that's really cool. I love the green wall. It really just, it's fun, but of course it's multi-purpose as well. And my favorite part of the space up here is these garage doors, which open up all the way if we need more collaborative environment and open environment. I just think that represents our school really well. Something also to point out is you see student artwork spread across the school, whether it's the pre-K artwork near the Learning Commons, upper schools creating stickers. We have a ton of different middle school art projects. I love seeing the Greek pots at the end of the year. I will talk about Greek Fest later on, but it's so cool to see what people are working on in different parts of the school. So this is another fun wall of projects that I love to see. So this might be my favorite part of the school. I love this area. It is amazing. So this is our outdoor classroom, and this is a great space for students to be outside if a teacher decides, you know what, let's do class outside today. there's a great setup. We have different types of chairs, tables, so accessible. It's so nice. And it's also really great if you have a study hall and your proctor is like, you know what, it's a really nice day. We should head outside. This is a great place to spend time. I always enjoy getting some fresh air on those last warm days in fall or first warm days in spring. So this is another really great space that students can utilize. And over here, we reach our solarium. So this is a very multi-purpose space as well. One of the main things I want to touch on here is our peer tutoring program, where upper school students can apply to be peer tutors, and then they are resources for younger students. So I'm actually a peer tutor myself, and I really enjoy working with the middle school students. One of my favorite parts of being in middle school was having those opportunities to interact with older students and, you know, gain a little bit of insight from them on maybe some good study strategies. And so we do have that program that I know a lot of students take advantage of in all different areas of study. So math, science, history, English. What's also really cool is we have a lot of international students who will peer tutor in their native language. And so that's a really cool experience as well. But we also have tutors through the school that students can choose to meet with if that's something that they're looking for. In the solarium is usually where that happens. Again, this is all in a normal time when we are not dealing with social distancing rules. The solarium is also another place where lunch meetings will happen, or sometimes if students are meeting with a teacher or making up a test, this is where that occurs. And with that, I'd like to take you to the theater. So creative arts is so fun in middle school. I'll talk about that once we get down here. So morning meeting, which usually occurs twice a week, we meet here as a whole middle and upper school, as a whole middle school. We have lots of different types of meetings in the morning to kickstart our day. But this is where those occur. So all of our middle school students and upper school students sit in the theater. And of course, it's where all of our performances happen. So this is our stage. One of the things that I love about middle school is how accessible all of the arts are. So students have creative arts 3 times a week. And once you go to art, once you go to music, and once you go to drama here in the theater. So it's a really great rotation. You get to spend different amounts of time in each class, work on different projects. And my favorite part is that what we're doing in those art classes is relevant to what we're learning in our other classes as well. So for example, you learn a lot about ancient Greek history in 6th grade, and that culminates in Greek Fest, which is so fun. And so part of learning about that is we learned about different Greek art as well in art class towards the end of the year. And so we actually made Greek pots with clay, and we fired them and glazed them. And so I think that was really cool that what you're doing in your creative arts class relates to what you're learning in some of your more academic classes as well. We also have a fall play and a spring musical for the middle school students, which is so fun to be a part of. I'll be the first to admit, my singing voice will not take me very far in life, but I love being a part of those productions so much that I actually was in all 3 middle school musicals when I was here. So I love that. I think it really is a great sense of community. It's a fun way to meet people and just to kind of get outside of your comfort zone a little bit. So I highly recommend being a part of things like that. So if that's not for you, one of the other cool things we have, I mentioned clubs after school on Mondays. We also have a stagecraft club. So if being on stage isn't the thing for you, but maybe being behind the scenes and working the lights or the sound, or just managing props backstage, if that sounds like something that's for you, then you can also be part of stagecraft and be part of the stage crew during their performance, which is another way to be involved in the experience without having to be on stage. So I know people who have enjoyed that as well. So this is our theater. You can see some of the lights up here. We have a control booth that students can be in. So yeah, and with that, we will start to head downstairs. One of the things I mentioned before, we have a lot of current art displayed throughout the school, but we also have all of these art awards displayed here, as well as in the art barn. And I love seeing that because it's so cool to see what my classmates are doing, what people in the past have done, and to see the development, because some people are very talented early on. I was not one of those people, but to see the growth of people's work over the years is really exciting. So over here, through this door, we have the faculty workroom and the college counseling suite, which of course is not as important for middle schoolers, but if you're ever trying to find a teacher and somehow they're not in their office, they're most likely in the faculty workroom. So little trick there. This room here is where a lot of our language classes take place. I love this room. There's so much natural lighting. It's a really fun atmosphere to be in. And so some of the smaller classes will be here. So I'm actually taking Mandarin. I've been taking it since 5th grade. And the language classes are really wonderful. The teachers are so great. And the classes are also really small. So my class, a bit of an anomaly, actually had 2 students last year. But language classes tend to be a little bit smaller than, science classes or English classes. And I love that because you really get a lot of attention and practice speaking the language. So I've enjoyed that. And over here, we have our math hallway. So we have some wonderful teachers. I cannot tell you how much I enjoy all of their classes. Math is definitely one of my favorite subjects. And I think the main factor in that is the teachers. Very involved, a lot of projects and group work going on, which really makes it fun. Okay, and now we will head down to where a lot of science classes are. So I mentioned Dr. Gallen before with his stream tables up in the innovation space. So this is Dr. Gallen's classroom. You do lots of cool experiments in middle school science. I remember, some of my favorites. In 8th grade, we did an oobleck lab to figure out if it was a liquid or a solid. And that one got a little bit messy, but was really fun. We also did an experiment with finding the highest ratio from baking powder to vinegar, I believe, to see whose rocket could shoot the highest. So it was a weight, I guess it was weight versus how much baking powder we used, but that was really fun. Lots of fun experiments. We did a Lego Mindstorms robotics project in 7th grade, and now they do a project with a hydroponic garden, which I will show you later. So lots of interesting experiments happening. And each year is focused on all different types of science. So we learned a little bit of biology, a bit of earth sciences, everything you can think of. So it really is varied and you are getting a very well-rounded education. And as we move this way, there's some more classrooms. Over here is our senior study space, which is always fun and kind of full of life. Over here is another science classroom. So we have lots of those. And I love this wall. This is currently created by the 8th grade students from last year. And they created their own periodic table of the elements, which I think is really interesting. I remember doing this project and enjoying it. I think it's a great way to dig a little deeper into some of the things you're learning about. So again, the science classes are really wonderful. You do a lot of learning through experiments, which personally helps me kind of understand more of all of the concepts. And down here we have another classroom in the science office. So if your science teacher isn't here, then again, check the faculty workroom. But we also have a laptop cart for the science department. We use some interesting software to analyze different data for different experiments. And so it's nice that those are accessible to students in their classes. So on the topic of technology, we are here at the Pappas Lab, which you can see has computers. So we have a really interesting one-on-one iPad program with our students here, which means each student has an iPad for their education purposes. And I have learned so much about how to use technology through that program. I think it's so valuable to be able to use certain programs. And so we've done a lot with Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, some of those programs that I think are useful later in life. And I think it's a really great way to have our systems integrated. So for example, Canvas is our learning management system, which especially when we're spending a little bit more time virtually right now, it's nice to have all those files accessible online, turning in a lot of things online so we don't have to deal with exchanging papers. Of course, that's good for the environment as well. Of course, right now we're also using our technology a bit more for Zoom if people are at home, but the technology department is wonderful about helping out with that. And I think I've learned a lot from using an iPad. It really teaches me a lot of different technological skills that I might need to use later in life. And just, it has so much available just at your fingertips. So I love that. I think it's so helpful. You can also see more art over here. I love seeing what people do. And we're approaching a very cool space, which is our dark room. So another club that we've offered is photography. Since we do have a dark room, you can do film photography, which I think is so cool. So again, lots of different options. So as I head back down this hallway, one of the things I want to mention is our advisor program. So each student is put into a group of about 7 or 8 for one advisor, and that advisor meeting also occurs twice a week in the morning as a group. So the group of 7 or 8 advisees will meet with their advisor just for some weekly reminders, check-ins, sometimes we have fun activities, and I think that's a really great way for students to have an additional support system. So if you're struggling with a class and you don't know how to ask for help, your advisor is a great person to help figure that out with you. If you are having a bad day and you just need somebody to talk to, your advisor is another great resource for that. Or if you're having a really good day and you want to celebrate something, your advisor is a great person to go to. I can't tell you how many times I go to my advisor when I have something exciting to share. And in fact, my 6th grade advisor, I still talk to her all the time about things going on. So I think that's really valuable. I think it builds a lot of connections. And it's one of my favorite parts of being at Brimmer is those close-knit connections, not just between students, but between the faculty members as well. So I really feel comfortable reaching out to all of my teachers if I have questions, and I know that if for some reason I don't feel as comfortable, my advisor is a great person to help me feel more comfortable. So as we head down here, we approach the Library Learning Commons, which is a very cool space. So we have all of these different setups. You can see we have different types of tables. So if you're working more on, you're taking a test, then these tables in the back are great. If you're working on homework, I like these high top tables. And if I'm reading a book for English or history class, then I like to sit over here on the comfy chairs. You'll also notice these strange looking, I'm not sure what they are. They look a little bit like aliens to me, but what they actually are is hydroponic gardens. So in 7th grade, our students do an experiment where they examine the influence of different variables on plant growth. And so they've grown everything from, we've had basil, we've had mint, we've had kale, we've had pink rainbow chard, so many different plants in these hydroponic gardens. So again, their amount of light varies, the soil pH can vary, they might get watered differently. But it's really cool to see those growing. I always enjoy getting to smell the nice herbs when I walk into the Learning Commons. And when everything is grown, of course, it's safe. The kitchen sometimes uses that in the cooking, so I think that's so cool. Mrs. Dolan is our librarian, so of course we have tons and tons of physical books, but more than that, Ms. Dolan also has a wide variety of virtual resources available to students. So we have the Gale Virtual Reference Library is one that I know I use a lot. We have JSTOR, so all sorts of different books, resources. She's a great person to help with different research papers. There's really endless possibilities. One of the other things I want to point out, I mentioned peer tutoring before, but we also have the Math Lab and Writing Center. If students need, a quick question on math is confusing them and they just want to look it over with somebody, then Mr. Schwartz is in the library working with students on their math. So I think that's a great resource. I've definitely used it quite a few times, and I know a lot of other people that have as well. We also have a printing station in the library, so if you need to print out a paper or a worksheet in the middle of class, then the printer is a good place to do so, of course. And we do have laptops in the library as well, so if students need to be working on a computer for something, they can sign one out and use it in the library. So over here, I showed you the outdoor classroom before. This is our courtyard, which is our downstairs equivalent of the outdoor classroom. I can't tell you how many nice days in the spring we would go outside to read for English class, and I love that. It's really nice to be able to get outside and just some fresh air, even if it's just a slight peek out the door in the middle of winter. You just want some fresh air for the day. So that is our courtyard, and that we will continue down the hallway. So straight ahead of me is actually the Learning Center. So I just talked about the Writing Center and the Math Lab. The Learning Center is very similar to that. There are teachers from all different subjects, so not just math and writing, but you'll have science teachers, language teachers, history teachers, all different subjects. Teachers will spend periods in their schedule here each week, so that if a student has questions about their science homework, they can head to the Learning Center, and it might not be their science teacher, but somebody will be there to help them. So I think that's a great resource. One of the main things I've learned from being at Brimmer so long is that you should never be afraid to ask for help. It's a very safe environment to ask your teacher or another teacher if you're struggling with something and you need a little bit of extra support. The teacher's goals are to help you succeed, not to hold you back. And so they do everything they can to make sure that you are learning and successful and that they can help you. And so that to me is really valuable. So over here we have an English and history classroom. And as I mentioned before, the art classes often coincide with curriculum from other classes, but English and history curriculum is also very closely linked. So when we read the Odyssey in English class in 6th grade, you're learning about ancient Greek mythology and history. And then by far, my favorite experience from all of middle school was Greek Fest, where the whole grade is put into different city-states and there are trivia competitions. And we, most excitingly, have the Olympics, where we go outside in our city-states and compete in different events for Hellas points. And it's so fun. We made our own different robes, so it's so cool. So lots of fun hands-on experiences. And something else exciting we do, again, safety permitting, at the beginning of the year is we do an overnight camp trip. And so these are some pictures from our trip actually last year, where the students spent an overnight. You can do everything from ropes courses, we went canoeing when I was in middle school, lots of fun activities, being outdoors, especially transitioning into middle school. I had been here in lower school, but there's a lot of new students that come in for middle school, and we're all new to this area of Brimmer. And so that trip is a really great way to get to know your new classmates, as well as your teachers in a different light. And so that's such a fun experience. It really does connect people. And I know a lot of my friends said that that trip was a great way for them to feel like they were a part of the community coming in new for 6th grade. So that is really fun. And over here, of course, you can see all of the pictures from our different middle school plays and musicals, which is fun. I walk by these and it brings back memories for me. And over here we have Mr. RV's office. So Mr. RV is our middle school head. He is so approachable, so friendly. If you ever have any questions, he's so easy to talk to. He's not the big and scary principal that they depict in movies, which I think is universally true about our school. Teachers, whether they be the teachers of your classes, teachers in the upper school or the lower school, the different heads of the school, or just different faculty members that are somewhere around campus, everybody is so friendly, so willing to help, so willing to chat, and I love that about our school. So here's another humanities classroom. You can see what all the 6th graders are reading. I love seeing what people are reading around the school. Our teachers often put up posters as well, and I think it's cool to see what other people are doing. We have our drama boards, and you can see what's going on with the recent productions. And of course, we've reached our language classroom area. So here's our language board. We have 3 different languages people can take. We have Mandarin, French, and Spanish. So as I mentioned before, I'm taking Mandarin for quite a while now. I think a lot of people enjoy Spanish, and French is, of course, a hugely popular option as well. So the language teachers are really wonderful. I'm always amazed by how much people can learn after going through just a year of language. And so I think that's really cool. And it's not just about learning how to speak a language, it's also learning about the culture. So they've had celebrations for Cinco de Mayo in Mandarin. We've had, for the New Year, we've had celebrations. And I'm always jealous when I walk by French class and they're having a crepe party. So again, the cultural aspects are present as well. You don't just learn the language, you learn about the people. And I think that's also really valuable. So as we've reached the end of the hallway, there's 2 important things I want to mention here. So one is these practice rooms over here. So we have middle school band. Students can either choose to take part in our middle school chorus, which is called May Chorale, or band. Of course, you can also choose to take both, but we also offer different music lessons, voice lessons, if that is something that appeals to you. So those take place in these rooms. And here is our music room. So if you're in music class, this is where you'll be. If you are in May Chorale, this is where you will be. And it's a really nice space. As I mentioned before, singing is not my forte, but I was involved in Make Chorale, and I'm very glad I was. We've gone on cool field trips to go sing in different competitions in different places, and I am always excited by that. I think one of the highlights for Make Chorale was there was a competition we performed in at Six Flags, and so we went and we sang, and then we got to spend the day at Six Flags while we awaited the results, and that was definitely a fun memory. So with that, we finished up in this building, and I will now show you the art barn. Here we go. So the art barn is just across the field, which is not a far walk, and it's always nice to get some fresh air. And this is where art classes take place for students. So as I mentioned before, we do have some art awards shown over here, and I love this space. It is so open, so light, it's wonderful, you'll see. So this is our main studio. So students, again, through creative arts, periods are blocked off 3 times a week, once for drama, once for music, and once for art. And again, those projects tend to correspond with what you're learning in your classes. I definitely think making Greek pots was one of my favorite things. Something else a little strange, but very fun we did in 8th grade, I believe, was we painted fish with black ink, and then we used those to create a print on a piece of paper, which we then watercolored. Quite the experience, but I've created some really beautiful things over the years. At least that's what my mom has told me, and it's really so cool to see all of the different and innovative projects Mr. Ridge, who is one of the main art teachers, comes up with. Ms. Lee also teaches some art classes as well, but middle school classes are often taught by Mr. Ridge. You can see, again, there's a lot of light coming in, which I think is really nice about this space. And art classes are often very just, fun and relaxed. And so we'll often listen to music while we're drawing or painting. And I really enjoy that. It's a nice break and little restful period in my day. And lastly, this is our ceramic studio. So of course, we've made our clay pots. We need somewhere to fire them. So we actually have a kiln hiding behind this door over here. And of course, you can see we have our pottery wheels. So another one of those clubs that is offered on Monday afternoons can be ceramics. So students can learn to do wheel-thrown pottery, which is so cool. We have so many interesting options, and I love that we offer so much here. So with that is all I need to show you of the art barn. One more thing I do want to mention while we're here. So of course you can see through this window that there are train tracks. So our location is wonderful. We are literally a minute away from the Chestnut Hill train stop on the Green Line. So I actually live in Newton, and it's so easy to take the train. I go on my 10-minute walk, get some fresh air every morning, and then take it home at the end of the day, which I really enjoyed. It's a nice bit of independence. But we also have buses, Brimmer buses, so students can choose to take that as well. But I know a lot of students who live in Newton, Brookline, Boston, those types of areas do take advantage of the accessibility for public transportation. So with that, I will end my tour. I hope this has been helpful to you, and please check out all of the resources available on our website for more information. Thank you.